doing good. Well, anyway, Kasey is here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Board of Directors meeting from Tuesday. We are reminding everybody that the Salem Hospital Board of Directors meetings are being attended by Zoom only at this stage. We hope that will be changing here in the upcoming future. Trust me, we really do.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we play by the rules, and we will do what we have to do to maintain everybody's health and security. So very good. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
I ain't seen you in a month.
And for those meetings, I mean, we continue to watch positivity rates and just kind of see where we are. And I don't. There's not a specific. Hey, when it gets back to X, we will resume meetings. And,
right.
But it is one of the things you want to be mindful of, and we are the healthcare provider in
Denton County and the
so
surrounding areas.
we've gotta do what we can do.
Right.
So
And we had a little spike,
Yes.
So, and it seems like we get things level off, and then all of a sudden we'll get like a surge of, and I don't know, like 10 or 15, and all of a sudden we had 26
Yes.
in one day, and then it'll go down, it'll virtually disappear to 1 or 2, and then, but then you'll have one of those days.
Yep.
That a lot of people want to get tested, and when they do, they test positive, and that's
Every day
Yeah.
morning, or we've got a morning briefing that we do at the hospital, and so every day we talk about outstanding tests that are outstanding. We're still waiting. I think we had 15 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, they've been sent off, and we're just waiting for results. So
waiting. It's a waiting game. A lot of it is a waiting game.
It
and
is.
That's how it works. And even with even sometimes when people want to get that rapid test,
yes,
they may follow up with a regular test, because sometimes those rapid tests
Yes.
may not be accurate. So if you're
Yeah.
still feeling ill, just get the regular test for the most part. But if you have to, I know we've had some athletes that had to get it right away to see if they're going to cancel the game.
Yes.
So, I mean, you got to
Yeah.
know real quick, pretty quick. But anyway, so there are some of those out there. So kind of keep that in mind. But still doesn't hurt to get the regular test even after the rapid one, just in case. Follow up.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. Well, very good. Okay, so another month of COVID, another month of all this.
Yeah.
The good news is the expansion's almost done.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it really is. A lot farther away than
Sure.
it was last September.
And really everything that's visible is I mean it's almost done. And
Yeah.
so we one of the last 3 things our new generator
Right.
that we it was installed, so it's where the new placement. It was placed. So the old generators inside the hospital, new generators outside the hospital.
Right.
But and all of the conduit that runs all of the electric lines into the hospital, all of those have been put into place. And just yesterday, I think they poured concrete over the last area that needed concrete. So that was fantastic
good.
that we got that done. And so then we will go to the area in which we have the old generator.
Mm-hmm.
Once the new generator is set up for sure and is working properly, we will take out that old generator and put in new water softeners and water heaters for the hospital.
How old is that old generator?
It's 50 years old. It's probably 51 years
day
old.
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an old generator. But it
is.
has done good when
My
needed.
gosh,
when
it
needed,
has
yeah,
worked and
absolutely,
has-
no doubt about it. But right now we got a new generator, much more efficient, and it's outside and a lot safer.
Yes.
Be away from
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Well, sir, glad that you could make it in this morning, and
Yeah.
let's kind of go over some numbers here for the people who are interested. Finding out what's going on in our hospital. Again, it's still struggling with COVID-19. I think people are still a little bit afraid to get out and about, and that's totally understandable.
Yes.
But it doesn't prevent you, if you're sick, to get to the hospital. Don't
Yes.
don't try and say, I'm not going to go. because there might be COVID at the hospital. Well, there probably is some people with COVID at the hospital, but they've got them isolated. They're quarantined away. All right? So you don't have to worry about it when you walk in an emergency room. There's nobody standing there waiting for you to, tell you, oh, I'm sorry, you can't come in. If you have a serious accident, if you got injury, you've got a cut, heart attack, if you're getting lightheaded, you got stroke, any kind of stroke signs, do not hesitate. Call 911, or if you happen to be in the vicinity of the hospital, pull right in, get in there, walk in the emergency room, and say, this is what's going on. You don't want to be playing with your health right now.
Yeah, do not put that care off.
Yeah,
Come on,
because
come
you're
on in
afraid.
And, yes.
Don't do it.
If somebody comes in and they have symptoms, they are isolated from the word go. So,
right.
Definitely come in, get checked out, make sure that, you've heard stories of people who had COVID, who said, "Oh, we're going to do this on an outpatient. I don't want to be admitted. I don't
Right.
want to." And then, a couple of days later, they're right back, and worse off for having put off the care that they could have gotten in those 2 days.
That's right.
And so we want to make sure, again, we're addressing it as soon as we can, and with the amount of medication that we can. Again, we have, even on an outpatient basis, we have certain infusions that will have been proven to really increase or make better the outcome for COVID patients. So,
Don't ignore it, guys. Just don't ignore it, and don't be afraid of it. And the sad part about it is that that's easier said than done. And I know when people start to feel a little bit ill, but it's flu season too. There's been a flu bug that's been in Salem. It's come through already, and so please don't hesitate. If you've got symptoms and you're not quite sure what they are, don't play with it. Go get a test. Hey, if you got it, you got it. If you don't have it, you may have a flu. It's all right, but hopefully you got your vaccination or your flu.
yes.
That vaccine is available. It's available at SMDH Family Medicine. It's available in a number of locations. Most of any of the health clinics around here should have flu shots. I think most of the pharmacies even have flu shots.
Yes.
So there's no reason
I know
not to
SMDH
get it.
Family Medicine has a lot. We do have a large stock of flu shots.
See, I don't think a lot of people have gone in and gotten their flu shots yet, Kasey.
Right.
Simply because they're still afraid. And I know I got my flu shot back in October when I was in the hospital and came back out. And once I came back out, to prevent anything further, for any kind of further problems, I got my flu vaccine right away.
But as you were discussing when I walked in you were talking about the vaccinations.
Right.
And be very, I would call my primary care provider and talk to them about vaccinations that you're planning, because if you in fact want to get vaccinated, to get the COVID vaccination, there is a waiting period between any other vaccinations and you have to at least 14 days.
Right.
So, and like Stan said earlier, we don't know exactly when we're going to have this. We don't know when we're going to have the vaccine. But when we do, it's going to be short notice. And, we hope it's in the next 2 weeks. So that would mean be careful on the vaccinations you're getting, because it does recommend
A waiting period. And I would do that with any vaccination, because I know I'm supposed to get a pneumonia vaccine.
Yes.
Okay, and I need to go get that done, but I had to wait till I was cleared of pneumonia. You don't want to get a vaccine while you have it.
Yes.
And so I need to get that. I know I want my shingle shots. Well, 6 more weeks after your pneumonia, you can't get a shingle shot till 6 weeks later. So there are waiting times with all vaccinations.
Yes.
So please, if you haven't gotten vaccinated for the flu, that should be done. But if you got other vaccinations you still need to do, but you're going to hold off on them because of COVID, that may not be a real good idea. So talk to your primary care physician, because if you need that vaccination, get it done.
Yes.
Very good. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about some numbers here. Inpatient admissions at 104. Now, the monthly budget was 91, but last December we had 120. But not exactly where you want to be, but that number's not a bad number.
No, it's not a bad number. You can see the length of stay is down a little bit, and again, that comes into play when you
Sure.
talk about census days and how many days we are actually treating patients. So,
Sure. But, sometimes the length of stay is determined by the severity of your illness, too.
yes. Oh, definitely.
If it's super severe, you may be transferring them to a major hospital. If our hospital can't take care of you the right way, they will transport you out there. Problem is with some of those cases is sometimes there are not a lot of beds available in the major cities.
Yes, and that is true. I mean, we've had, not really talking about COVID, but we've had other issues finding beds.
So, yeah, not COVID necessarily,
No,
just getting people
just
in,
getting, yeah.
cardiac problems and things of that nature, because beds are scarce
Yes.
out there. All right, so the inpatient census days we mentioned, not exactly where we want to be at 576, which the acute care percent of occupancy down to about 35. We saw 37 actually last December, so that number's not all that far off. The monthly budget though is higher, and that's why I think when people look at these numbers, if they do look at the numbers, normally when people come in during this time of year, they're really sick,
Yes.
and they're going to stay a while,
Yeah.
and so the normally that length of stay, as Kasey was mentioning, is a lot longer.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why that occupancy percentage is down. And acute care patients per day at about 8.9. Monthly budget was 10.9, 9.2 last December. See, the numbers there aren't off very far.
Yeah.
The length of stay, 3.28 days.
Yeah.
Well, it was only 3.08 last December.
I know.
So
I know. It just depends, like you said, depends on the severity.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's
what's going
holiday
on.
time, and people
Sure.
will do things they don't normally do. Like, well, I want to be home for Christmas.
Yes. Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do, but I want to be home for Christmas. It's amazing how that works.
I know.
All right, yeah, but your health should come first, and I'm going to tell you, there's just, and it's unfortunate we were seeing, some people that we have come to know and love and cherish, and that have gotten ill, and so
Yes.
we don't want to see anybody pass, but we've like Libby Sanders and things of that nature.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to be on top of this. You just have to be. All right, let's talk a little bit about the operating statement. Kasey, I'm going to let you hit with some of these numbers because there's a lot of additions to some of the numbers that you have to explain. First off, I wasn't on Zoom at the meeting.
Yes.
I was in
Yes.
St. James. So there is some additional funding that's been provided, and you may want to update people on what like the SHIP grant is and what that is, et cetera.
Okay. Yes. So, and just talking patient revenue or revenues and other revenue,
Right.
Non-patient revenue. Again, as Stan was talking about the inpatient numbers, actually our inpatient volume, inpatient revenue was above budget. Outpatient revenue definitely below budget. $500,000 below where it is. Other revenue, as you led us to, we had some SHIP grant funding, and that came through Missouri Hospital Association, the state, and basically is part of the stimulus, part of the CARES Act funding that went directly to states. Now, there was some of that came directly to hospitals,
Sure.
and we'll talk about
Right.
that later. But that went to the state, there was application process you had to go through, had to meet certain criteria. The items that you bought or purchased or that you're using this funding had to meet requirements.
It's always a lot of strings.
There is, and so, but again, we received about $40,000 in total from that funding, and that is in this month's other revenue.
Okay.
So 246 compared to 205 and 217 for last year. But also there was other CARES Act funding. So from the county, the county's dollars that we had received, 40,000 for a biofire, a lab equipment.
Right.
Again, specific for COVID testing. And we received that. We also received a little bit of dollars for, it was some equipment so that we can clean rooms, whatever equipment, other equipment has been used in treating COVID patients.
Right.
We can turn those rooms around. We can turn that equipment around very quickly.
Yeah, you talked about that last time we got together.
And so those dollars also came through the
CARES Act.
the CARES Act funding for this from the county.
Okay.
And so all of those dollars, again, there's been so much of that is available, and it's really a job to make sure you're not counting,
overlapping.
Yeah, you're not
something
overlapping
twice.
those.
Yeah.
It's just when you start looking at those things,
It's an accounting nightmare.
It is,
It
and
is.
you really have to make sure what we've applied for funding here is not included in any other funding. And that sounds, just to say that sounds, well, wow, you guys have all this funding out there. Yes, that's true. The funding is available. It's making sure that you are compliant and making sure that you are applying for those and are compliant with all the application, all of the necessary hoops that you have to jump through.
Because we know that if you double dip when the government comes back and does this audit,
Sure.
and they know you're going to get audited,
Oh,
and
yeah.
your auditors
Oh,
are
yeah.
going to see it.
Sure.
And your auditors are the same one doing it for the state. So
Yeah.
that really makes it a double whammy that they're really going to be looking at the COVID-19 dollars that the hospital gets. And if they see that it's over, if you've double dip, they're going to make you pay it back with interest and penalties.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's one thing the hospital doesn't want to do, especially right now when money is tight. We all know that.
Yes.
But you don't want to have to be giving it back.
Right.
And so it's like the CARES Act money you got from the county, all that had to be documented. That was all for specific reasons that would help the hospital along with the different things that they had to do to accommodate COVID-19.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so-
And it has to be specifically for that. And
Yeah.
I think we still have something outstanding we may or may not receive some funding for. Again, we've had a lot of expenses, but the last thing that we did was we created that outside COVID testing
Area.
site that has, the COVID shack or the
Tent.
shed,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shed
whatever you
out
wanna
there,
call
and
it, whatever, yeah.
and the carport pull under that will protect the people getting testing and protect our employees
Sure,
from rain,
from rain,
and,
sure.
and snow and whatever. So, and we've applied for that. That is still outstanding today. I think there's still a possibility we may get additional funding for that,
So,
but we'll see.
but there's the reason we talk about that additional funding is most of the time other revenue doesn't include those kind of funds because those kind of funds usually are not available.
Not available.
So
Yeah.
you get your interest income and other kind of revenues like that. But in this case, there have been, as Kasey mentioned, there's been a lot of money out there, but that doesn't mean that every single dollar that comes available, the hospital can actually apply for. It's not all there.
Right.
You
right.
can't do it because a lot of them are contingent that if you were on the payroll protection program at that time, you can't get reimbursed that. And if you got CARES Act on this, you can't ask for it. Even if it's similar to it, you really can't ask for it again because you already asked for it one time.
Yes.
Can't get
And
the same
so
thing.
and that's another round of funding. Again, it's not in our financials today, but the PPP loan or the program, we've applied for forgiveness. Early on, I heard that was like a 6-week turnaround to where you would know forgiveness or not.
The higher the amount, the longer it is.
So
yeah.
and we did we received right around $2.3 million. So I would think that it'll warrant audits.
Sure.
it'll warrant closer review.
Right.
And we expect that. We understand that. I think that's.
But as of right now, that's still a loan.
Sure.
It hasn't been forgiven.
Right.
And now they have another round coming up that the hospital could apply for again.
Yes.
So if the dollar figures are still there, because payroll, let's be honest with you, payroll is still one of the largest expenses
Sure.
the hospital's going to have. And
Yep.
if you can get a little forgiveness on that and help maintain everybody, keep them working, which is very important.
Yeah, I think there was a specific. I think some of the criteria. I don't know that we'll meet all the criteria. We are reviewing that right now. We still haven't. It is still under review, but we haven't made a decision yet, one way or the other. But I'm going to question whether or not we meet all the criteria to participate in that again.
I'm not quite sure because it's a 3-month period. So if you have a 3-month period that went down 25% from the previous year, well, you had a couple of bad.
Well, we did
3 months or so
Yeah.
of way down revenue,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah,
So
that second quarter of
yeah,
of
everybody had
20.
second quarter of 20.
yeah.
Really hard quarter. That's when you got your first PPP, but it doesn't. People have to understand if that is drastic from 20 to 19, and you lose more than 25%, they're allowing you to qualify again.
Yeah.
So, anyway, well, it's something to look at.
Yes.
I know I'm. As far as any other business I know is concerned, everybody's kind of taking a look at it.
Yep.
It's not, and people say, "Well, it's free money." Well, nothing's free. Because if you get the loan, it's still a loan, and you don't know if you're going to be forgiven.
Yeah.
But it may be a loan, and then how long that loan goes, it could be over 10 years. You pay it back, that's okay. If it gets you through the hard times, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
So again, so the SHIP money, about $40,000 on that. Some CARES Act money. I know you got. I think you guys had 3 applications in.
Yeah, I think it ended up
3 or 4. I know you had
Yeah,
something you
3.
submitted for pre-approval at one time.
We had 4, and the 4th is still outstanding. Nope, we had 3, and the last one is outstanding. But yeah, so the cleaning,
Infrared, whatever it is, blue
all
light,
of that,
ultraviolet.
was one. The BioFire was another, and this last the COVID shed, our COVID drive-up testing was the last one. So
Okay,
and that one's still outstanding.
Yeah.
But,
All right, very good. Okay, well, continue. So we've got some big deductions from revenue, as we
Big.
always do.
yes. Big deduction,
Even with
3.5
COVID, you still got big deductions.
of 5.1 million in revenue. 3.5 of it is uncollectible. So we'll just not collect it. We'll just write that, we'll just take that deduction and move on. So we had 1.8 million left for to cover expenses, and you can see expenses of 2.5 million. So did not cover that. Loss from operations of about 676,000. Did have some early tax money come in, $80,000.
Sure.
That brought our excess of expenses over revenues to 594,000. And year to date, that's 1.8 million, and that is not something we want to see. As long as we still have, we skipped over a little bit of volume,
Sure.
outpatient volume, although the registrations were really at budget and at the normal level. The
Amount of services.
ancillary services
Yeah.
that were actually provided from those registrations, they just weren't there.
Yeah.
And so that made that outpatient revenue so much less than what we had budgeted. And so, again, we're not at that 25%, but
Well, you might
for
be.
this time,
Yeah,
for
not
this
right now.
for this
Yeah.
month.
Right.
But and again, that payroll protection, once that forgiveness happens, we will show at the bottom of our financials the non-operating revenue. We will show that 2.3 million as non-operating revenue down there.
right.
So
And I think one of the things when you start to look back at 2020 versus 2019 is the increase in expenses that you had to have for COVID. That all started in March.
sure.
So April, May, June, I mean, it just ramped up
Yes.
and got more and more and
Yes.
more. And so, that's why I'm saying your expenses just absolutely just kept multiplying.
Yeah.
You know, it really did. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I think 25% reduction, maybe in income, but maybe a total of 25. But there was a couple of months there nobody wanted to go anywhere,
No.
and so they canceled all surgeries. They canceled.
Yep.
There's a big reduction there, and
Yeah, that March,
I-
April, and May.
yeah.
Or April, May,
April,
and
May, and
June.
June.
Yeah.
It'll be tight, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking April, May, you were
Yeah.
down over 25%. June may throw you over that, but you got to
Yeah.
do it by quarter.
Yes.
So, but we'll see. Anyway, so some money available. We look forward to getting some tax money in for the January statement. That should be substantially more.
Yes.
That will help out, and hopefully the month of January has been a little better.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
well, I know it's going to be what it is for a while,
Yeah.
another 2 or 3 months. We know that.
Yeah.
But when people are sick, as we're mentioning, get to the hospital. Don't play with this stuff. Too much stuff out there, and I know we're all trying to be defensive. But it's
Personally, I've noticed, I've had friends, family that I think they thought they had it, maybe didn't approach it in, as
Cautious way.
as cautious as they should have been, and it's now they're dealing with it for the long haul. I mean, they're slowly getting better. But, if at first you would have, addressed it, maybe talk to your physician or primary care provider about, hey, we've got these monoclonal and polyclonal infusions that we give in an outpatient setting, that you come in, get this infusion, you have to be watched for about an hour after the infusion, but the information shows, all of the documentation shows that infusion, the outcomes are so much better for COVID patients after that infusion.
but you need to get it quick.
But you do.
Yeah.
It's a from the time that you understand that you have it to the time of the infusion, it needs to be within 10 days.
Yeah.
And so,
Because there's still, and I speak for it. I had the COVID. There's still long-term effects. I had it back in October.
yep.
There's still days that I know that I'm not right, but it's going to take time. But everything's not right, so you don't know if it's just because the world still
Yes.
isn't right, and you're trying to get that normal back. You can't.
Yes.
And so, is it the COVID that still plays with you a little bit, or not?
So that I'm just asking, and I don't know, that fog that
I never got the fog. I didn't get the fog.
Didn't experience
no,
that. Okay.
I didn't get the fog. My problem was with pneumonia, and I got the COVID is breathing.
Yes.
Couldn't breathe.
Yes.
And that was the big one. So there was no breath there. If you coughed, you had no breath.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get that breath back, which was
And slowly it's getting better, where it has gotten you pretty good.
I'm pretty good.
Okay.
But the thing is those 3 or 4 days, the first time it hits is the worst time because you don't expect it. And that's what I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. They said, well, how bad was it when you had it? I said, in all honesty, if it wasn't for the breathing issues, I didn't know I had it.
Right.
But once I coughed, and you have no air. It's not like you can't take a deep breath. There is no way you're going to take a deep breath. You can't even take a short breath. And that's the problem. When you cough, you expel a lot of air out of your lungs, and you're trying to cover your cough because you got it, and so you don't want it to spread all over bathrooms and furniture and stuff, because that's the worst thing you can do to give it to somebody else. So you're trying to cover it. Well, the worst thing you can do is try and cover it because you're taking away any air that you might be able to get back in when you cough. And then when you do expel all that air out of your lungs, you're trying to put it back in. COVID won't let you.
Yeah.
So then you're just taking these short little surges of air, and it's a scary thing. Once you realize how to work through it,
Yep.
it's okay, but you got to figure it out quick, because if you had a panic attack, and I've told friends of mine, Kasey, if I'd have had a panic attack, I don't know if I'd be here today. You don't know when you gasp for that air and you can't find it, and you try and gasp harder, you're making it worse. You have to calm down.
Yep.
Instead of raising everything.
Getting excited. And,
Yeah, I mean, if the heart rate goes
Yeah.
up, then all of a sudden your adrenaline kicks into high gear, and you're trying to breathe harder because your adrenaline's pushing you. And you know what? There's no way of doing it because the lungs aren't taking any more air in. So,
Yeah.
but that was the scary part. But as far as temperature, never had a temperature, never had a fever, never lost sense of smell or taste, never did any of that. It was just with pneumonia, and the COVID got on top of it. And it was the nasty part. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
we don't want to do it again. Let's put it that way. Okay, not a fun time. Let's talk about some of those operating expenses. As we mentioned, the current operating expenses higher than it has been in budget and previous years. There's a reason for that. When you look to the current year to date, how much higher that is. A lot of it is these different supplies and things needed for COVID. And I know people probably are tired of hearing about it, but when you look at a supply, what your cost of supplies is today or this month or within the last 5 months, Kasey, $384,000 in the month of December versus even last year, $272, but it was budgeted $232.
Yeah.
That's $150,000
Yeah.
more expense than you anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
And when you look at, part of that is, again, when you look at supplies, everything is in there. The actual supplies,
Right.
gloves, gowns, masks, all of those things. But also, pharmacy and medications are in that supply.
Absolutely.
So that's really where we see a lot of increase is there as well. I think looking at year to date, we're good 550,000 over in supplies. There I think employee benefits. Insurance claims. We've had some high claimants, and so we've had to pay out on that, and some of that will come back with stop loss. We will get some back from insurance companies.
Sure.
For
sure.
some of those claims, but
But when you look at like physicians' contracts and stuff, okay, all right. So let's put it bluntly. You get 3 or 4 people who are exposed to COVID and they get quarantined. You have to hire physicians
sure.
to come in.
Yeah.
So those contracts, they go up,
Yep.
not due to anything the hospital did, but because these people came in contact with somebody with COVID, and you can't allow them back in the hospital until they do their quarantine.
yeah,
So those costs, which I always kind of call those the hidden costs because it's an effect of what happened. Nothing the hospital did, not needing new medicine, not needing anything to treat anything. It's a quarantine. Those employees get paid, and the new ones get
Yes.
paid. It's a double whammy.
yes, and that is true.
And
That's going on.
And it's a kick in the face when you're trying to follow
Yeah.
expenses because it's uncontrollable. You have no control over that.
Yes, yes.
So, but when you look at the expenses, you look at most of the expenses, they're pretty well in line. Utilities is down, different things of that nature are all down. Everything, obviously, travel's super well down, things of that nature. Maintenance is consistent, so everything is pretty well in line, except when you look at those supplies, the employee benefits and the contractuals, they're all up.
Yes.
And it's all because of COVID.
Yep.
That doesn't help
Yes.
the situation, but hopefully, like I said, hopefully we're turning the corner, and it would just be nice by opening a trout season to not have to be cautious of every single person you see, and you have to stay 25
Yeah.
feet away. I can't imagine. I know they're going to have the road rally. They're still going to have the road, but they're not even going to have stands. But I know people will be there.
Sure.
And you can't stop people from coming in from out of the area, so you don't have any idea where they're coming from. And that to me is the scariest
Yes.
part. I'm not so concerned
Yes.
with the Denton County people. I'm more concerned with the people that come in and bring it and give it to the Denton County people. That's my
Sure,
problem.
sure.
So hopefully, again, we can move forward. Let's look at the balance sheet. If you would mind, is that next on your agenda?
Yeah, that
very
is
good.
fine.
Okay. Well, the balance sheet still shows some strong numbers, but we we know some of those are artificial at this time. There's a lot of money sitting out there that you're making accounting for, but it's not being used.
No, and we've talked. I think the time has come where probably going to start really
Looking at it,
probably using some of those dollars, and again, a part of working with our auditors just to verify to make sure that we are documenting and that the documentation supports us using some of those dollars. Again, we've got at least 4.3 million out there for CARES Act funding that we just haven't ever used, and so
it's available.
It's available, and it's there, and we are obviously with a loss that we've had year to date, and again due to COVID, that we need to start tapping into some of those dollars so that our operating cash is up to a point where it needs to be, and again, verifying all of those numbers before we set into that.
Sure.
We wanted to make sure we knew when this thing came up that, here we are a year later almost, and now we're having to tap into it. And I'm happy that we could do that, but I think a year of this, it takes its toll, and we're going to have to tap into it and using as little as we need to use. But again, as long as it's documented and it meets the requirements,
right.
We are starting to. We've been buckled down looking at expense, but the volume has been so low, has been so poor that we are just having to look closely at that and probably take advantage of some of that.
And it helps to have Doug on board, who's done this many times,
Yes.
to where
Yep.
he can make suggestions, and it's not like you're breaking in a new rookie who never saw this
Oh,
before.
no.
That would have been a nightmare.
Yes.
Because of the accounting
Yes.
requirements. And I'm not going to say creative accounting because of the PPP and some of the stuff that they have with the CARES Act funding. It's not creative accounting, but you have to create new. We were talking about earlier, new documents to say what it was used for, so that you don't duplicate. So
Yes.
there's an additional step. It's like having an Excel spreadsheet that's 6 miles long. So every little thing you do has to be put in there, but you have to explain it. Years ago, if you ordered gloves, surgical gloves, you didn't have to explain it. You ordered
No.
surgical gloves.
Yes.
Now, are they for care? Is it
Yes.
for COVID?
Yes.
Or is it for this?
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Hey, documenting how many COVID patients we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
every
suspected of.
every time you go in and out of the room, and
I
from
know.
firsthand.
I know. And the expense. And,
Yeah.
it. That's why it was so hard for me to even page the nurses. I didn't want to do it because, first off, it's not so much that not about their time. That wasn't
Right,
the big
right.
deal. It's that I know that they probably just have gotten out of one of these gowns and gotten everything off, and then here I am paging them to come and push a button.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to do. They're going to
Yeah.
push a button. But I can't do it. I don't know what the settings are supposed to be. Otherwise, tell me what to do. I'll push the button.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't to a point that I couldn't do it, but they said no. We have to make sure that something isn't out.
Yeah.
Make sure everything is still in good shape. Okay, but you page them and they come in and you got all the gloves, the hat, the shield, the gown, those covers on the shoe. I mean, and then as soon as they walk out, they got to take it all off and throw it away.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Nah.
What I'm saying
Yeah.
is, when I look at it on an accounting standpoint, you used it one time for 35 or 40 seconds. That's a waste. If you use it for a surgery and it takes 45 minutes to an hour, that's not a waste. But for 30 seconds to come in and hit a button, and that's what I was trying to avoid as much
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it does happen.
It
and
does.
You have to contact them. All right, very good. Cash flow statement. Kasey, it's again a lot of cash. We talked about We talk about this a lot of times, and unfortunately for the hospital, there were 3 payrolls in December,
Yes.
adding to everything, and an extra good chunk of money goes out. It was $944,000.
Yes.
Cash going out. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. Somebody said, well, that's a lot of payroll. It's not all payroll. That's expenses, and also you got taxes, you got different things,
Yeah.
and you're still expanding the hospital. You got
Yes.
all these contractors you got to pay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cash flowing out of the hospital in December.
Yeah. And some of that, I look at the accounts payable, and some of that accounts payable we'll get back. In some of the construction, we pay that out of our cash, and then we'll apply for reimbursement from the bond.
Sure.
Dollars. And so we'll get some of those dollars back. So
Right.
it'll
But
be
it's still,
Yeah.
when you look at the checkbook, you're saying,
yes.
whew,
Yes.
man,
Yes.
that's a big chunk of change. So the self-pay you were talking about, self-pay has been up as far as
Yes.
contributions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So self-pay, again, when you look at and I'll say this month, I think the 18th of this month, we actually looked back at our cash, and we had collected in self-pay collections for the first 6.5 months. We've collected what we collected all last year.
Wow.
And so that crew is doing a phenomenal job. And it also is a good illustration of where and how our collection process has improved from last year to this year. And those people are doing a fantastic job, and I don't want to take anything away from them. And we continue to, on a weekly basis, look at cash collection, and we're talking, and we're saying, what can we do better? Again, it's a process of trying to improve all of the processes that go into the revenue cycle. So when you start looking at those things, just the improvement in our processes, where the processes broke down back in late 18, first part of 19, that those things are turning around, and those processes are back in place, and we're getting that collection going.
Well, and that's great to see. It really is great to see. So some of those dollars coming in. You have some of my dollars in there, I know. On the self-pay.
Mine too.
Yeah, I'll bet. A lot of people had to make a contribution to the self-pay, which is fine. And we do remind everybody that when you do get your hospital bill, and if you pay within 30 days, you get that 25% off. So you don't get that discount in most hospitals. Now, I want to tell you, there's a couple of them. It seemed like I just got double billed by somebody else, not our hospital. For the same thing, but they recoded it with a different code.
Oh.
So trying to hit me twice, and I'm not a happy guy about it.
Those things are hard enough to figure out.
Yeah, well, and there's something different about the code because the description was just a little bit different. So I know that they put it back in again.
Yep.
Even though they got paid the first time, they put it back in again, try to send me another bill. I'm not happy about it. So, these are things that can happen, and it can be simply how many different 68,000 codes or some crazy thing like that.
Yeah.
I can understand how somebody can do it, but when you already got my money, why wasn't it either credited right or what? Or why does somebody go back and look at it again?
And the other thing is one thing that a lot of people don't consider is when you come into a hospital and you have a service like a surgery, and let's say it was a surgery and they found some tissue that then was sent off.
Right.
Well, with that one visit, with that one procedure that you had, you could get 3-4 different bills.
Sure.
One from the hospital,
right,
for the actual
could be
facility,
right?
Facility,
yeah, right.
Okay. Then you're going to get one from the physician, because his professional component,
right,
him doing his work,
anesthesiologist,
and then you have,
possibly
could have anesthesia, could have pathology because they send it off to a lab to be checked to check that tissue. You could have a pathology bill as well, and so you just don't know. when you walk in. And I think that was part of the transparency that we're trying to push for, so that you know when you walk in, what to expect.
Right.
And so, if you ever have any questions about any of those bills or any of the billings that you're getting,
Right.
even though it may not be from Salem Hospital,
Yeah.
you can contact us
Right.
and our billing department, and
Usually look at the
we'll,
dates and look at your,
and we'll help explain some of that.
Yeah, a lot of times, I know, like, I had CAT scans and chest X-rays and stuff, and and then you get the bill from them, and I'm like, nope, yeah, I remember that. Yep, I remember that. I remember that. So
Yeah.
now, a lot of times, if you're not conscious, you don't remember that.
Yes.
You don't know they did it, but hopefully you're conscious when you have your X-rays and stuff done. So it's better.
Yeah.
All right, let's move forward. Cash on hand, of course, it's artificially inflated
Yep.
at 126 days. We'll just skip right past that because that really is not indicative of anything right now at this moment.
Right.
Certificates of deposit aren't indicative of anything either.
Right. Right.
And then let's go into the statistical summary of the operations for the month of December. As Kasey was mentioning, outpatient registrations are pretty well right on track. And some of the tests, though, they're just not there. When you look at laboratory tests, they're not where they used to be. You look at even though the rehabs are about where they were last year, down from where the budget is. We've seen a lot more rehabs, of course, and then the home health visits, and we can know long-term care. They're not allowing you to fill those empty beds right now. So there's definitely some effect to what's going on right now.
Okay. And we have, in the month of January, we went back. Again, we were receiving residents that had been at another agency, but we have now added 2 more long-term care residents.
Oh, good.
So we are up to 17.
Well, that's good.
Not our max, but we are up to 17, which is good.
But I know that takes a lot to get them in.
Yes.
It's
a
there's
process.
quarantine.
Yeah,
and
you
everything
have to
else.
go through.
Yeah.
And
so,
they are still on quarantine.
So there's a lot of that. And the surgical procedures, for the most part, a lot of people don't want to take them because you got to get a COVID test and you got to wait and then you got to do these things. And so, some of those have been canceled.
Yes.
But
Yes.
still, about for the month of December, pretty well where you normally are. 26, 27, 25, right in that ballpark.
Yes.
That's about normal. So, like I said, some of the numbers, the lab tests, though, extraordinarily low, and the cardiopulmonary down as well.
Yeah.
And some of the cardiopulmonary, I know when I had COVID, you can't take it for 45 days until you're cleared because the cost of cleaning equipment is unbelievable.
Yes.
So they won't even let
Yes.
you in there to do that.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
if you want to go take a stress test, you can go get on the treadmill if you want to. But if you're going to be doing a breathing test and stuff, that's not going to happen.
No, we haven't been doing our pulmonary function testing. Pretty much non-existent today. We're not doing any of that. So, but I did want to mention on supplies. I mean, or the outpatient surgeries, and we tend to think that all outpatient surgeries are elective. That's not true. But are they necessary? If they're necessary, then they've been doing those. I've seen other facilities, and we are fortunate we haven't had to do this, but I've seen other facilities that, because of the COVID response and the COVID patients they've had to deal with, that all their supplies, the gowns, the gloves, those things are being,
Moved over
shuffled over to those departments, and those departments that are having what we consider elective services are being stalled. And again, I can understand that, but
there are necessities.
There are.
There are. People have severe. You can have a major cut, have to have an amputation. I mean, it's not something Salem usually does, but if it's something that's already done, I know a little toe of mine. First, I cut it off.
Yep.
And this goes back a long time, but Dr. Tang had to come in and, flap it over and do what you need to do.
Yep.
Clean it all up. That's not something I wanted to go sit in the hospital for, but I wasn't going to be admitted. It was a little toe, so it wasn't a big
You're
deal.
right.
But it is something you have to take into consideration. So make sure if you have something like that.
Oh yeah, those things. Some of those things we call elective today, tomorrow can be an emergency.
So absolutely,
So.
absolutely. So yeah, if you don't do the right thing, it can become an emergency very quickly.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to some more of the summary of operations for December. Emergency room visits have been down. It's been down since COVID.
Yes.
Not much you can do about that. Um, I look at the number for December of 19. It's hard to believe. We're talking about a year. And I know January and February were still good, but then middle of March, I always call it the St. Patty's Day, massacre, because
Yes.
that's when everything
Yes.
started getting shut down.
Yes.
Right after St. Patty's Day. And so a lot of different things happened there. And all of a sudden, that's when, especially hospitals, healthcare centers, different things really got hammered because we're shutting everything down.
Yeah.
And when they shut everything down, that basically kind of shuts you guys down.
Yeah. And even when you look at, the budget number, when you look at last year's average, I mean, that's all of last year's average. So those 3 months, April, May, and June, which were less than what we wanted them to
Way
be,
less than normal.
was, they pulled that average emergency room visit or registration down to 740, where that's normally about 800. And you can see last December was 782. This December's 556.
And the year-to-date average is down over 106 patients.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's just going to continue
Yeah.
because we're not over yet.
yeah.
So we know that that's going to be down. Ambulance runs, though, for the month of December, it was a fairly pleasant month. So it wasn't, didn't have a lot of severe weather, which is good. Always
Yes.
good there. And still had 186 ambulance calls, 115 patients transported. And
Those dry runs are just.
I know they're killers. And right now they keep seeing the increase. They're almost 40%.
Yeah, yeah. It's just wonky how it's spread that way.
But one of the things we want to remind people of is leaving the hospital against medical advice is probably always not a good idea. Now, obviously, if they want to keep you for observation, you don't want to do it. I mean, I can kind of get an understanding of that, but sometimes they tell you we need to observe how this is working on you, because it's not going to happen in the next hour. It may take 8 hours or 7 or 8 hours for it to show what it's doing. It's like getting a bruise. Some people say we get hit, you automatically know you got a bruise. Doesn't show up sometimes for a day.
Right.
So, some of those I'm not telling you what to do, but against medical advice is exactly what it means, against medical advice. And I hate to tell you, if you have an insurance claim and you leave against medical advice, you may not get that paid.
Yes, that is very true.
So I'm just putting it bluntly. So anyway, I'm tired of being blunt. I'm gonna be a nice guy from now on.
Yeah.
I doubt that either, but I thought I'd throw that out there. All right, the aging of accounts receivable days in December. I mean, look at those net accounts receivable days down there, Kasey. Got back under 100.
Yes, and hopefully you're gonna stay there. I mean, it has been a journey, and we are not done with the journey.
No.
And the journey never ends. But when you start having the increase that we had, again, didn't catch it as soon as we should have caught it. I will say that, but we will definitely know that in the future, of how volatile that could be in just a change in
And how quickly it becomes.
in a 60-day or a 30-day period or a 60-day period of a process not working can
Decimate you.
just send you
Really,
into a tailspin. So
And the hospital has pretty well bottomed out on that. It looks like you're climbing back out of that hole.
Yes.
I mean, the dollars still have to be collected, don't get me wrong, but it's getting better.
Yes.
So hopefully the dark days will not come back. But we turn the corner and moving toward the right direction. So but it's a long process. It's a lot of follow up. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
All right. The acute care staffing by patient acuity. Deb Hines put this it's been about 2 years ago or so that
Yeah.
she started doing this. It's an interesting chart, and it does show when the hospital is very busy and when they're not very busy with the acute care department. And when the acuity rises, the nurses rise, and when the
Yeah.
acuity goes down, not as many nurses there.
Yes.
So, but it seems like December was a pretty average month. I mean, a couple of little spikes, but early on, kind of not good. But near the holidays,
Yep.
way down.
Yep. I
Which is
mean,
good.
the first half of the month was,
A little dicey.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty high. Pretty
Oh.
good volume, and then the end of the month, Christmas time.
Oh, I know. Get those holidays in there. Everybody wants to go home, and I don't blame them. But anyway, average of about 9, so not too bad on that. All right. Since we do our interviews, we already found out our sleep studies accreditation. Jack Lithicum said that was done and passed. Very good. So the accreditation there was complete. And a dialysis survey, and we had our interview there, said that they had gone, the state had come through, and they had submitted their plan of corrections. And
Yes,
that now has been approved.
Yep, has been approved, and we
Okay.
will put those things into place, and maybe they'll come back in 60 days. They have a little bit of time. They can come back and do a
Follow-up.
revisit and see what. I wouldn't expect it with dialysis, but maybe. I don't know.
Well, and I was mentioning to her, I said that when she was here, and I said, you got a brand new machine because the hospital had gotten a new dialysis machine. She said yes, and not too soon.
Yes.
The other one was wearing out, and
Yes.
it just takes more maintenance. And I don't think people realize when a machine goes down to maintenance. You've got maintenance people to do the job, get it back up and running.
Sure.
However, that time it's down. It may only be down 2 or 3 hours, but in dialysis, that's a big time.
Yes. Yes.
Because these people are there on a set schedule.
Yes.
So it makes
It
a
can be
little,
scary
Yeah,
sometimes,
it can be a little dicey there.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a lot of credit to those maintenance people who says if there's any way they're going to get back up and running, they're going to get it back up and
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
And as quickly as possible. So it's not like say, well, we'll get to it tomorrow.
No.
No,
No.
get to it right now. Very good.
And if we have to have outside service, I mean, you got to pay primo
well, you do
expense just to get them in here and get it.
but it's the service of
Yeah.
the hospital, and you have
Yeah.
to provide it. All right, Jason Edwards was in the hospital foundation. A couple of things, obviously, Dancing with Salem Stars. Couldn't tickle the light fantastic this year, so
Yeah.
unfortunately that got canceled. And I know they were really looking forward to having it. Remember last year we had to just get in right before all this stuff happened. Golf tournament, they have set a tentative date of Friday, June 4th.
Yes.
And they have set a tentative date for the Wings and Strings event for 9/11.
Yes. Yes. On 9/11.
Yeah.
And as the year goes by, we'll start planning for Wings and Strings. I think we've got a good enough plan for the golf tournament and changes that we're going to make to again make sure we're social distancing and
Hopefully by then, with the advent of vaccines and things of that nature, that we'll see such a tumble in cases.
Yes.
That won't be necessary.
Yes.
However, the hospital will be cautious, and they will do whatever it takes to make sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you had basically this past year, you had I'll call it a adjustment to your golf tournament.
Yes.
Had to make.
Yeah.
So.
And, I if you'd say we'd still be dealing with it as seriously and as I would have questioned that, but it is what it is, and we can't forecast this type of thing and how long it's going to stay with us, but just do what we can.
Well, that's all we can do, sir. Thank you. USDA Distance Learning and Telemedicine Program grant. The demo telemedicine product has been purchased. Is it TytoCare?
TytoCare.
Okay, very good. It's a 3-year program. So we're getting ready to start to actually try and put this into motion right now, right?
Yes.
So we're still working on that, but it's hard to work with the schools right now too.
Yes.
It really is.
I bet it is.
And with a pilot project that has to go through these schools, with
And-
COVID and everything. It's
Yeah, and
interesting.
we're doing all the testing we can today, but
Yeah.
it's all on one network, so it's hard to,
You
get
can't
yourself.
you can't judge it.
No.
No, and
No.
this program's been going to some distant
Yeah.
distant schools.
Yes.
So you're not sure how fast their internet speeds are
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So
And I think some of that's going to depend on, I mean, whether or not we place it there or not, or we want it to be successful, and so just depending on what school, what their internet speed, just like you said, what bandwidth they have, and you start
Right.
saying maybe we can do it, maybe not, and we'll start that testing school by school
Right.
as we roll it out.
and
So,
they may need dedicated hotspots there too.
Yeah.
You don't know. Just don't know.
yep.
Still to be determined.
Now, recently, didn't the state have something going on with getting internet out to rural areas?
Yeah. The FCC has provided money out
All right.
for these people they've applied for to get
Okay.
to
That's
serve
what it
these
was.
areas.
That's what it was.
Now they've put in bids. They've been awarded bids. They're not out there, and probably won't be for 2 or 3 years, even at that. So, because some of the areas there's no money in it.
Yes.
Not enough people to generate that. You put out $1 million to put a tower up or whatever to provide that service. You only have 8 people. They have to try and figure this out in the best way possible. So there might be. Well, I'm kind of calling some radio microwave or radio type of different deals that are used that might be used. I don't know if that's what they're going to try and do. There also is the possibility of satellite generated 5G. That's pretty close actually. And so if that does happen, then you will have to have all the towers, especially in the rural areas. You don't need them in the cities. In the rural areas, though, you got somebody living in the middle of the Mark Twain National Forest. Chances of them getting high-speed internet right now, any which way you want to say, not going to happen until it's done by satellite.
Yeah.
So all that's in process. It's in progress.
And,
but
and
it's gonna take
personally,
some time.
we've tried the satellite, and maybe
No,
it was,
that's this different kind of satellite.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
No, this is not the huge satellite deal.
All right.
No, this will be based upon almost 4,000 satellites up there. So as the Earth moves, and you will skip off one satellite, you go to another. So you don't lose service. With Hughes, you're subject to the atmospheric conditions and everything else. So that's like 3 satellites.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So, a lot of people are playing with that. I know there's already been millions, if not billions, of dollars already looked into this. But see, and I know this is off the hospital thing right now, but there's all these satellites being launched daily now that are going to be serving this. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Now, when you want to get that 5G phone that will work off that satellite, that's going to cost you some money. It won't be your typical 5G phone that you're still paying $1,000 for. It may end up being $2,000, but you'll be able to get it anywhere in the world. So, if you're going to be going to Canada, Mexico, if they ever get done with COVID, down to Antarctica, you can get it off a satellite.
Hey, if you just go back to 1982, and how much was a bag phone with those huge?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what though, bag phones were pretty reliant.
They were.
As long as you had a signal, they were good. But anyway, they're kind of bulky.
Yes.
Didn't have any texting going on with those cell phones either.
Yeah.
No, there we go. All right, let's move to the Chief of Staff's report. Medical staff meeting was held on January 18th. That's on a Monday, and they go over virtually everything that the board gets to hear.
Yeah.
But they also made their reappointment suggestions for 2021,
Yes.
recommended them for approval, and eventually they were all approved.
Yes.
As we saw on the list here,
Yes.
there's quite a few.
Yep. We had active and courtesy staff, and eventually they were all approved, and
Some in open session, some in
yep,
closed
some
session.
closed session.
Okay,
Mhm.
very good.
Yep.
And that's good. Always need to get those things done. Takes a while.
Yeah.
Go through that list.
Yeah.
because
I mean,
there's a lot of physicians.
a lot of physicians.
And
You know.
some by attrition, like on radiology, some of
Sure.
those, they're no longer with the companies that Salem deals with. Maybe they moved on to a different company, and so they're not renewed. And there's a few of those, maybe about 5 or 6 a year, about that, or
Yeah.
maybe a few more.
The attrition?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
just they don't reapply.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think we had 8 this year.
8 this year,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
But there's somebody that's already taken their place.
That's exactly right.
Very good. All right, an old business. Well, we really want to talk about COVID again, but we have kind of burnt that dog to death.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But we do want to remind everybody there's still the no visitor policy.
Yes. Yeah. It hasn't changed. We've talked again
Bless you, sir.
about can we reduce that at some time? When can we reduce that? And if we do in the next, again, I think for a county, our positivity rate is 22.81.
That was as of Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Less than that now.
okay. But as we start looking at that, it would have to be reduced definitely below the hotspot number and
For a long, consistent
yeah,
time.
for a consistent time. And so want to make sure that happens, and we're watching that. I mean, we want to get back to a normal,
Sure.
as
Sure.
normal as we can be. But,
There are some exceptions.
sure.
To this rule. I mean, end of life, different things, extenuating circumstances.
Sure.
They can make adjustments to that, but
Yeah.
for the most part, you just can't come in and visit a friend.
No.
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 And it really is hard when people are in the hospital. I know when I was in there and there was a no visitor policy. You watch TV. You wait
Yeah.
for the nurse.
Yeah.
You visit with the nurses and the
Yes.
doctors when they come in. That's what you do. That's the only people you see. But I mean, if you take it personally, it's don't take it personally. There's nothing to be personal about. It's just
No.
to protect everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Now, again, COVID-19 vaccines were received for hospital staff, Benton County Health Center staff, first responders.
Yes.
So the hospital did get those. Those are administered to those who wanted them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was no forced.
No.
No forced that you have to take this, but for those people who wanted it.
Yes. And I would say over time, those people that chose not to get it, going to choose to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to see everybody's okay,
Yeah.
and I think there's some concern. It's new. We've never done this. It is new. So
It is new.
people are unsure, and that's okay. But
And people can react differently to a vaccine.
They can.
Some people reacted. Remember when the old flu vaccine came out? And people had egg allergies. They had reactions badly, and
Yes.
so they made a
Yes.
new vaccine and didn't have that egg.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but you don't know that at the
No.
time, and so you have to figure out
yeah.
how it's going to
Yeah.
work. So,
And when you ask the questions, oh no, this doesn't have anything to do with that, and there's none of that's in here, and we don't have to worry about any of that. But yet the questionnaire that you have to fill out
Yeah.
asks you about some of those things. So it's
Sure.
like,
well, they don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna.
I think, and we're collecting this data. We're not submitting any of the data. I mean, with the questionnaire data, we don't have to submit really any of that at this point, but have to keep it for 3 years. So if we see something, we probably can pull that
Yeah.
information and start looking into it.
And I'm sure Pfizer and all those and Moderna want to find out what the reactions are.
Right.
So if there is something that they can tweak,
Yep.
then they can do it.
Yeah.
But if there isn't, then they may say, well, if you have this, you don't get that vaccine. That's the way it works. But anyway, so those people vaccinated. The renovation, we already kind of touched on that about the generator. That's going to work. I got the concrete down, covering that up. So not too far away from being done there, but you're not really done with some renovation either. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
Anyway, election filing, Mike got away with unopposed.
Unopposed.
So no election. They'll save
No
the
election.
hospital a few dollars.
Save a little bit.
You betcha.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, the city of Salem, it's almost been 3 years now
Yes.
that
Yes.
came to the hospital. Talked to them about being part of their getting on their sewer system when they expand the sewer system.
Yes.
And I remember there was quite a discussion with the board, either keep the lagoon or go to the
Yes.
sewer system.
Yes.
Problem is the last time the lagoon had to be replaced, it went from a $75,000 upgrade to almost $200,000,
Yes, yeah.
and a lot of DNR changes, and
Yes.
that was not fun
Nope.
going through that. And so this one it's a pretty interesting plan because there'll be a grinder pump station put out at the hospital, which
Yes.
that takes all the waste, just grinds up into
Yep.
nothing virtually. And that will be kind of the grinder for not only hospital, but Seville Care Center and others that are on that 72
Yes.
new edition. So that will be right there. So that's a pretty good idea to have that close.
Yes.
You know, if something happens, you got it right there.
Yes.
But there's a lot of different things that go into it. You got to run electric to it, obviously.
Yes.
There's got to be some other things. And so the plan was laid out. You had a gentleman from Archer Elgin there to explain this.
Ken
Goodman or Gordman?
Campbell?
Campbell.
Campbell.
That's right. There it is.
Ken Campbell. So,
So I'm assuming there were quite a few questions.
you know what? There were actually
Not that many?
There was not that many. I mean, we had, I think, back, like you said, almost 3 years ago. There was discussion, and I think there was lots of questions,
discussion,
and lots of questions of what's going to happen, and we did talk about this happening at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they came in. I'm thinking either right after the first of the year, or maybe even back in December. Walked the grounds back there by where they're going to put this thing, and decided, hey, this is where it's going to go. They drew it up, had Archer Elgin draw that up, and get us some really good drawings of what that's going to look like, and really, it's going to be a fenced off area, and that's about it. A fenced off area within our fenced off area. So you know, it's
Yeah.
really any use of property today. You know, we don't use that property. So
Right.
and so.
And
Yeah,
it's
no,
far
it-
enough away from the main campus.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's
I
not-
mean, even if
it's
we
not like it's
expanded
right-
something,
It's not
you know,
like it's not in a picnic area.
No. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, it's far enough away, and you know the interesting is if there is more expansion of the hospital, this still allows for you to expand more, and it can take much more in.
Yes.
So that's the neat
Yes.
part about it. So very good. So good.
So
And
they
anyway,
needed a motion
Yep.
and they got a motion, and they approved that, and gave the city of Salem and Archer Elgin the go ahead to get the bids out. I guess they were waiting to get.
Well, they're putting all specs together.
Yeah.
So if you guys didn't like something, they
Yeah.
had to come back and change the specs.
Yeah.
So they will award the bids in April, because there's some other there's putting in the pipes and everything. So there's a lot of components to this, not just the hospital's approval, but they've already put the bid out on the grinder station. I know that was been put out. So I believe that they may have already got them back in. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I know they put them out.
Yep.
So it's that. It's going to be the piping. It's going to be laying it down. It's going to be the construction work, and a lot of digging.
Yes.
So
Yes.
So even though the hospital expansion that they did at the hospital campus, that may be done virtually, almost, kind of.
Yes.
You know, it's never really done. There's always
Right.
tweaking going on. But this is going to be off campus, but there will be a lot of digging
Yes.
going on
Lot of
that you'll see still a little construction site over there. I'm sure when they start having to come in and get the backhoes in and trenchers and everything else that they need.
Yeah.
Very good. Conflict of interest policy was postponed till next meeting, or postponed, or did you guys go over it?
No. Postponed. We'll do that next time.
Okay.
We
No equipment purchases. I was shocked.
No, I know. It's January and no purchases.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying.
Well, we'll
Kinda-
get there.
I'm
We'll
sure
get
you
there.
will. Yeah, you got a lot still to get. I know that.
Yes.
From the budget.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know there's still a lot to be purchased. And any votes in executive session besides
Nope.
the physicians that were approved?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Very good.
That was it.
All right. Well, my friend, always a pleasure to have you come in and talk little bit about what's going on. We want to remind people to utilize your Salem Hospital and the clinic. There are some limitations, obviously, we have right now with COVID and things of that nature, but don't let it limit you getting service when you need it.
That's exactly right. Got to get that. Got to. If you're not feeling right, if you're not, like Stan said earlier, if you think you are, symptoms of a stroke or this or that, you go
call 911.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate.
Don't
think it's not something, because you just don't know. And even if you've had COVID, and I know a lot of people have had COVID, I have too. If all of a sudden something is not right, nobody knows what the lingering effects are. Don't say, well, I already had COVID. It can't be COVID. It could be COVID related. It could have changed some metabolism in your system. Don't know. But, none of us do. And so we're finding this out as we go along. But we want to remind you, services at the hospital are all there. Emergency room, still a top rate emergency room. You're not going to find anything better around the area, really. And by the way, we did talk about this, and I saw it on the website, about the transparency of the services that's now on the website.
Yes.
If you want to see what a service would cost, the hospital has that, and they have comparable hospitals. So you can look at all of them.
Yes.
You're going to be surprised at some of the costs in some of those hospitals.
Yeah. Yep. That's January 1. That's that new. There's hospital compare website. That's always been something you can kind of compare.
Right.
But we had to have mandated, but definitely want to put out there that the I think top 300 shoppable items that so items that MRIs,
right.
CTs, whatever you want to compare those prices, you can.
But the funny part
get
is
that information.
Is when I was looking on it, Kasey. I mean, okay, if I would compare an MRI to Missouri Baptist Hospital in Sullivan versus ours, theirs has been around 7 years. Ours is brand new.
Yes,
price.
that is true.
Ours is cheaper than theirs after 7 years.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I wonder which one would be better. Yeah. But that information is not available, on the website.
Right.
So before you make a decision, you say, well, you know what, that looks like a great deal. Hey, you got to compare apple to oranges. Look at our mammography machine. We got a 3D mammography machine. Most places still don't have that machine yet.
Yeah.
It's really a first-class machine.
It is.
And you can't beat the price that is here. Now, a lot of times your insurance covers all these things.
Yes.
So you need to maybe check with your insurance carrier to see if they do cover those things. So, but this gives you that opportunity to do that. And some work with the hospitals, some don't. Remember, you have usually in-network and out-of-network. Don't go out-of-network.
Right.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
If you go out-of-network, you're going to be paying a lot of money. I don't care what that price says on there. You might be paying all of it. So you may want to do that. Again, understand these things, because no matter what you think you might know, you probably don't know, because after the first of the year, they change everything.
Yes.
Every insurance policy. Everything I knew about my insurance policy last year, it's different. So don't just assume you had it last year that you have it this year.
Yeah.
That is covered.
That is.
All right, very good. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank
Here
you.
at KSMO Radio, we have Civic Happenings coming up in a moment. I want to thank Kasey Lucas for coming in, spend some time with us here on KSMO and online at KSMORadio.com.